Hello and welcome back to the Motorsport Better podcast. I'm your host GD, and joining me today once again is my friend and your co-host Vedan. On this episode, we'll be talking about the recently revealed Gen 3 Formula E car. So let's grab some chai, take our seats, ready your opinions, and dive right into the conversation. Hello Vedant. Uh, let's address the elephant in the room. What do you think about the Gen 3 car and its looks?
Yeah, well, I am. I mean, honestly, I'm not a big big fan. It just looks out of place on a racetrack. It it looks like something out of a video game, out of a 2D video game from the 1970s, basically. It's not my it's not my. I mean, yeah,
Uh,
no words, I guess.
yeah, that is putting it mildly. I did. I've been looking at that. I've been looking at those pictures over and over again. And what I'll say is, it seems that most of the car is growing on me, and I feel if I watch it go racing, it'll get better. But uh, what have they done with that front wing, my friend? Why is that front wing the way it is?
Yeah,
I am okay with the rest of the car the way it looks, but that front wing just rubs me the wrong way. It is not what a front wing is supposed to look like.
yeah. It's
Um, yeah, that is all I have to say. If they just change the front wing to look a little bit more normal in a
yeah.
way, not to look so wacky, I think I'll be decently pleased with the car. And I'll be more optimistic about Formula E's growth in the future.
Yeah, I mean it's not a front wing; it's a front trapezoid or something. But I was just googling the name of the game I was thinking about, and it's called Asteroids by Atari, and there's a spaceship that has to
It,
destroy asteroids.
I know. It's funny you
Yeah,
mentioned. It's funny you mentioned that. I was playing that last night at an arcade.
yeah. So I mean that was exactly the first thing that car reminded me of. Not even kidding, right? But I mean, as with everything motorsport and everything related to change in motorsports, it will definitely grow on us. We'll still watch it for the racing. We'll still watch Formula E for the spectacle that it is. Good car, bad car does not, like, good looking car, bad looking car does not really matter, because remember, we also watched the 2014 Formula 1 cars for whatever they look like, and it was fun, right?
I would take that car over this car the way it looks.
Yeah, well, to each his own, but
But I mean, obviously it does not matter to us as much, and our viewership. But it might matter to the casual fan who's trying to tune in,
yeah, absolutely.
and it might be the first variant. However, again, let's move the conversation a little bit further. The Stellantis group, which has led this, whole endeavor of the Gen 3 cars, has come out and said that it is ready for it. And apparently the debate that this look has created is good for Formula E, which I feel is the equivalent of saying all press is good press. Um, is how I am interpreting it, at least. But I know the real reason why this car looks the way it looks, because this car was designed by the entity of Stellantis Group, that is a French manufacturer, Peugeot. And we all know, we've seen enough Top Gear throughout our lives to know that French cars are a bit wacky. We all love them. It's not to say they're not good cars. We all love them. But they are quirky, they are wacky, and that is what makes them special. And that is essentially what Peugeot have done with the Formula E car. Although the Peugeot WEC car, hypercar looks great, but this is definitely a lot more French than we would have liked on the Formula E car. Especially given the fact that the Gen 2 car made like an immediate impact on
Yeah,
everyone, all the motorsport fans with simply the way it looked.
absolutely. But I think uh, we had the initial, the default images released by Formula E, and then every team started to release their images. And I looked at, obviously Jaguar had the camo livery sort of thing, but I think when you look at the Mahindra Racing's livery, it generally looks like a good car in certain angles. So let's
See,
see.
that's what I'm saying. As long as you don't look at it, as long as you don't look at it from like
Yeah,
just like straight, like
from the front.
from the front, it's
Yeah.
fine. It's fine. As soon as you look at it from the front view, it's just I just don't want to look at it anymore. But anyway, let's talk about the pros. All right. Obviously, Formula E has made a significant technical change going into Gen 3. We'll have regeneration on the front axle for up to 250 kilowatts. We'll have no rear brakes and we'll have more power, right? We'll have 350. We'll have a total of 600 kilowatt regeneration and 350 kilowatt of power coming to the wheels. So that is huge, which means these cars will be able to go up to 200 miles an hour. So on par with Formula One, you could say, in terms of top speed. These cars are lighter than the previous gen. They are narrower, which means there will be more room for racing, less, hopefully less cars in the wall, and they are a little bit shorter, which should, in a sense, enhance racing. So I think if they're able to hit these targets in performance-wise at least, I think that will be great for Formula E going into
Yeah,
Gen 3.
absolutely. I mean, apart from the new car, I think Formula E obviously has to do a lot more in terms of technology, in terms of the racing itself. We obviously, as you pointed out, all the different technical regulations that would be changing, but I think in the end, better racing, like Formula E is always competitive, and it's always a mixed bag sort of event. But then again, you need to either maintain that image or improve upon that image. If these new cars don't do either, it it won't be good for anybody, right? So the 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 progress
Yeah.
is the only way forward, and with the technologies of today and tomorrow that Formula E is working on, I think it's going to be very interesting to see how they go ahead with it.
Yeah, which is why given everything else that is wrong with Formula E at the moment, Formula E being able to make racing better on track will be the biggest factor in not, I wouldn't say growing the audience, but in maintaining the audience it
I mean,
currently has,
maintaining
which
the
isn't
audience
a whole
is
lot.
one of the primary factors for Formula E, because as we have been talking for the last 2 days since the car was launched, and as as the general discussion is around Formula E, it is very tough to maintain. It is very tough for Formula E to maintain the audience right now.
Yep, and talking a little bit more about the technical regulations, Formula E had set out with the goal that it wanted to go four-wheel drive, and a few other things like suspension, the way it wanted to go with suspension and what they wanted to allow, active suspension or whatever that might look like. Lucas Di Grassi spoke about it, and he said that he was a little bit disappointed that Formula E did not hit all its performance targets, which in my opinion goes to show that, and obviously as the car was revealed in Monaco, all the manufacturers also got together to
Gen 4.
discuss what the Gen 4 car would be like, which to me tells me that that Formula E is going through an interim phase, and it needs to survive this interim phase in order to be in order to set itself up for success with Gen 4, hopefully. And it'll all be down to how long can these manufacturers stick with Formula E and continue to battle it out instead of leaving the sport maybe, or whatever that might look like, right? As long as the manufacturers can keep the interest in Formula E, I feel there's a lot of potential for success in Gen 4. But again, it'll be all about survival, in my opinion, for Formula E for the next 3-4 years until Gen 4 kicks
Yeah,
in.
absolutely. I mean, as you said, keeping the manufacturers in the sport is important, because it's not like the 1970s or 80s anymore, where any rich businessman or any rich monarchy or anyone can buy up a car and enter a racing series. It's a different economy now. It's a different ecosystem nowadays in the world of motorsports, and for any series to survive, they need these big manufacturers to be in it. And the way Formula E, like we just saw several teams leave Formula E, several big manufacturers, Mercedes, Audi, and BMW, and know if, even though people are joining in, but
But
again, keeping them in Formula E would be key.
But again, having a lot of manufacturers brings me to the same point, and I feel, ever since we had that conversation with Jack Nichols, this issue I feel has, has been in the foreground for me a lot more than it had been in the past, and that is, you can't really have a lot of, OEM manufacturers in the same sport because not all of them will be winning, and eventually either they'll win a lot and leave, or they won't win enough and they'll leave. And that is the issue, which is why a lot of people have come out and said that, a MotoGP like structure for Formula E would be might work better in the case that you have 4 or 5 manufacturers, and then you have a lot of customer teams that are running pretty much the same car to go with in the competition. But yeah, like I said, the technical regulations are one bit of the bigger picture, and the last bit of that bigger picture that is trying to make racing more exciting this next season will be fast charging. Now, the sporting regulations haven't been confirmed yet, but fast charging seems to be confirmed for Gen 3. So I'm pretty excited to see how it will happen. There will be a lot of safety regulations that will go with the addition of fast charging, but I am optimistic about it, and we'll
Yeah,
see
I
what
mean,
happens.
fast charging will open up a whole new window for Formula E, a whole new window for racing, you know, electric racing basically. We saw in Formula 1 when we had refueling, there were a bunch of different strategies that were being used. It was not just different tire strategies, but different fuel strategies as well. And Michael Schumacher won a race after doing 4 stops with that fuel strategy, right? So that would be interesting. Obviously, Formula E races are much shorter, and only, I guess, only one charging stop would be required to go till the end and be competitive to win. But it would just open up many strategies.
But yeah, like we discussed with Jack, we don't know the sporting regulations yet. We don't know what's going to happen with the attack mode. We don't know what's going to happen with fan boost. We don't know how they're going to go about the last bit of the sporting regulations. So I think if Formula E can get it right, it'll be a huge success. And hopefully the fast charging technology, especially as an engineer, for me the fast charging technology is interesting because it will in some way or form come down to
Yeah.
the automotive industry. It'll also trickle into endurance racing, hopefully. I'm really interested to see how this works. And they've come out and said that the power that they're putting through these fast chargers is 4 times as much as what you see in a Tesla supercharger. So clearly they have made some big gains in this field, and I'm really interested in what's going to happen with the technical side moving forward. But yeah, enough about that. Let's talk about some of the other overarching issues that will continue to hinder FE's progress that need to be conquered by the FE team. And some of those things just to list out are broadcasting. Formula E is not free to air in most regions. It's very hard to find usually. Like in the US, in the US it's on Motor Trend. So you can clearly see why people are not watching Formula E in the US because it's not easily accessible on TV or on a usual streaming service. And then the calendar, Formula E just lost Vancouver. They haven't, and the calendar is literally all over the place with a lot of big gaps in between seasons, which again makes people lose interest in the series. The third being track reconstruction with all these faster cars, with more capability. They'll have to reconstruct a lot of these street circuits to accommodate for that. Otherwise, the cars won't be able to make full use of their potentials. Fifth one is junior driver attraction. Formula E is really still a place for most of, I wouldn't say F1 rejects, but people who haven't been able to who have either left F1 or haven't been able to make a career out of the top motorsport series elsewhere. And this penultimate one will be manufacturers, like we talked about before. Having too many manufacturers in the sport could cause an issue. And the last one, and I feel this is what has come in the foreground throughout the conversation, and the race has written about this. We heard about the same thing from Jack Nichols. So clearly, this is a huge point of conversation, and that is what is the future of Formula E. Formula E looks a bit confused. It's going through an identity crisis, and it seems that it might either have to merge with F1 or do something really special to forge its own path ahead. Um, and this is a very interesting view to me because I had never thought about this way. And given the fact that Formula E cars are looking more and more on par on power, I wonder now. Obviously, there's a huge regulation difference between Formula One and Formula E. So I wonder down the line, if it coalesces, like we said, if we would see something like a WEC situation where the teams will have to go into BOP and things like that if it happens. Obviously, this is like way far into the future, but these conversations will be haunting a lot of people in the
Yeah, I
paddock.
mean, the last point, obviously, it's way too early to think about it at a micro level, right? But I think it's all part of the sustainability of the sport itself, and the sustainability of the what Formula E stands for, what Formula E is trying to achieve. So it's going to be interesting how they go about it, because obviously, I mean, clearly electric racing was supposed to be the future, but it has not come about just as much as we would have thought. We take Moto E for example. Moto E has been going on for a few years now, but it is nowhere. No one knows about it. No one watches it. It's just a support series for MotoGP at select weekends, right? So, I mean, it's a whole different ecosystem. Electric racing and Formula E obviously is the spearhead for them, and they
I mean, you say that, but if you say that, but if you look at it, FE was about entertainment, right? FE was about going racing on street tracks. And see what F1 has done. F1 has more street tracks than I can remember in the last, 15, 20 years. F1 has become the center for entertainment. The racing is better than ever. So it's going to take a lot more from Formula E to snatch back that audience. And F1 is going more electric. I feel I don't think FE is any trouble with F1 switching over to fully electric cars anytime soon or in the future, given the fact that they're investing so much into sustainable fuels. But F1 is increasing the amount of electric energy usage that it will be having, and there will be some sporting regulation changes that will come along with it. So FE is in a very
yeah,
tight spot.
absolutely. I mean, especially as we talked about the technical side of it, the broader picture of it is going to be very interesting for Formula E. Talking about the calendar, as you said earlier, I think there was some news that Formula E wants to transition to a calendar, like proper calendar, not a two calendar year calendar, just a single calendar year calendar. But for that to happen, they would probably lose some of the drivers who would be competing in endurance series like Sebastian Buemi, like John-Eric Verne. I mean, most of their drivers are competing in WEC and IMSA, right? So that would be interesting to see how Formula E makes that transition if they do. But then again, we saw the gap between Rome and Mexico. It was almost 2 months. So that is something they need to think about. They need to solve. Obviously, the majority of the outcome of the COVID situations is behind us, right? So moving forward, hopefully they can have better calendar. They can have more races across more places. Hopefully, let's see.
Yep. Let's see. And Formula E did get new sponsor for the next two races, including Monaco, and that is TVR. And TVR has said that it is evaluating, having a Gen 3 entry, I believe, for Formula E next year. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. And also, one thing that I missed out on, Formula E will be having a new tire manufacturer in Hankook, which is using sustainable materials for its tires, and all of that obviously falls into the sustainability drive that Formula E is pushing. But again, a lot of questions to be answered for Formula E. I don't know if Alejandro Agag has stretched himself a little bit too thin between Formula E, Extreme E, and Extreme H now. But the man needs to come back to Formula E to save the sport that he started, the revolution that he started. And honestly, I don't want to see Formula E go away. It's a fun little series, doesn't take up a lot of your time, and it always provides entertainment. And we all love that in a racing series. But that's all from my side. Without anything else from you before we wrap up this podcast.
Well, no, nothing much. I think, it's, yeah, I guess nothing much to add. I mean, TVR is obviously exciting as they were the title sponsors, and I was looking through their Instagram and whatever, but they have just announced an electric car recently. So they are just stepping into the electric vehicle game, and being a supercar manufacturer, it would be exciting to see them there, and maybe they might attract the likes of Rimac, right? So that would be pretty exciting in the future, but let's see how that goes.
Yep. I mean, they've already attracted Lucid, I believe, who's supplying some components. I don't remember exactly which components, but Lucid is supplying components to Formula E standardized component. So yeah, clearly, people do like the sport. But it's about how they capitalize and how they bring in the money for the teams and all the other stakeholders involved in it. But yeah, thank you, Vedant, for joining me once again. It's been an absolute pleasure talking with you about Formula E, and we'll catch you on the next one.